I learned a long time ago, what you've all learned in your life. When someone's going through something that is beyond their comprehension, that they ever thought they'd have to go through. If they see someone who they think understands, or maybe been through something not the same but similar, it gives them some
You're sending $100 million to the Palestinians?
Yes, Mr. President.
Nobody was asking that question. What? Go ahead.
Well, what do you think about that monetary fund?
I think right now it's totally inappropriate. It's so inappropriate to be doing that right now. He's over in Israel and he's giving money to the Palestinians. I think it's very inappropriate. Thank you very much.
I wanted to start this video out with a bit of a contrast so that way you guys could see exactly what one leader looks like and what the other one looks like. Don't worry, we'll get more to that towards the end of the video, but I want to kind of like set the scene, kind of a bit of a narrative for you guys that obviously we're in a situation where we really don't have the adequate leadership to handle this. However, I need to go through this step by step. Now, this video that I'm doing today was actually made last night, and of course some things changed. The things that changed are what I'm about to show you now. Just some highlights from the president's speech last night.
Do not seek, make it clear, we do not seek to have American troops fighting in Russia or fighting against Russia. Putin attacks a NATO ally. We will defend every inch of NATO which the treaty requires and calls for. We'll have something that we do not seek. Make it clear, we do not seek to have American troops fighting in Russia. A little boy here in the United States, a little boy about their daily lives. And I know many of you in the Muslim American community, the Arab American community, the Palestinian American community, and so many others are outraged and hurting, saying to yourselves, here we go again with Islamophobia and distrust we saw after 9/11. Just last week,
Things wrong there. For example, Ukraine has not gained back 50% of the territory that was taken from them. That's actually a lie. Ukraine is losing that war. But then again, if you say something online, you may get the yellow tag or the yellow dollar sign. I'm actually expecting that. But still, though, make sure you guys are still hitting that thumbs up button. So that way YouTube can't just suddenly take away likes, because they've been doing that a lot lately on not just my channel, but a lot of other channels, especially smaller channels, especially channels that don't exactly agree with the overall narrative. But of course, as you guys can obviously see, we don't exactly have somebody there who is cognizant. As a matter of fact, Biden even looked dead. I actually saw this speech last night because I was listening to Timcast IRL. Ashley St. Clair is a very funny person, so I'll listen to her from time to time. And Scott Presslip there, who had some very good insights on the current political situation on the ground. But we'll probably talk more about that in videos later on next week, because obviously there's a lot to discuss. And of course, in time of war, yeah, it would be best that people learn not to jump too fast. Now, I've talked about this before, and the entire thing got started, and I'll tell you exactly how this entire issue got worse. We all know how it started. Okay, Hamas, they decided to cross into Israel, go to a concert, take 260 people hostage, kill a bunch of people, and also 29 Americans got killed in the process as well. Then, to go on top of that, we find out that Egypt gave Israel a heads up. And of course, Israel, of course, they started fighting back. And of course, people are blaming Netanyahu, especially those who live in Israel, and they have a reason for it. But one of the things that you have to understand about Israel right now is that Israel is very divided. So regardless of what happens here, Bibi Netanyahu is probably not going to survive. But still at the same time, though, Israel has a right to defend itself. And I have said that what should probably occur is that the United States should, in fact, for the most part, they should put 2 fleets out there in the area to keep Iran, Syria, and of course, keep Lebanon, all the nations on the sideline, and let Israel take care of this problem. And of course, I could already hear people screaming, free Palestine. Well, let me go ahead and answer that now. The Palestinians have gone out of their way to buck every single agreement that Israel has tried to make with them. They've claimed that they want a 2-state solution, but yet then again, though, when Israel offers their terms, including giving them some land, the Palestinians always balk at it. People say that the Palestinians, it's an open-air prison is what it is. And my response to that is, okay, you got the land that quite frankly you wanted. You govern that place the way you wanted to govern it. There's a border there. You guys continue to take pot shots at the other side while you guys still operate in there. Sounds to me like Palestine is pretty daggone free. I mean, where else are they going to get their land? Where else are they going to get their food at? They obviously have to rely on Israel for that. Maybe they should rely on Egypt, there to the south. But of course, Egypt's not going to help out either. So do me a favor and just spare me the whole Free Palestine BS. You're rooting for Hamas, and you guys know it. This organization has got a 51% approval rating amongst those who live in Palestine. Spare me the BS. Then, you got this situation that we're dealing with now. And how did this situation get a lot worse? Well, I'm showing you something right now. Apparently, there was a rocket strike that hit a hospital in Gaza. But yet, people were running with the narrative that Israel had tried to kill a bunch of civilians or whatnot. But then we get this nice little video, and we get a little bit, let's just say that the narrative suddenly changed. Make sure you guys pay attention for the next few minutes.
On fire. Joe Biden's trip to the Middle East cut short, with part of it being canceled after it was reported that Israel bombed a hospital. However, it seems now the evidence is suggesting Israel did not, in fact, bomb a hospital. And as you're waking up, you may be thinking of the ongoing debate from last night of, was it a missile strike, an airstrike from Israel, or was it a misfire? With the left saying the decimation of a hospital is too great an explosion for Hamas to have pulled off with 500 dead. How could it be possible that Hamas's rinky-dink little rocket misfires and takes out a whole hospital? It's an interesting question. And we had one of our members last night ask that. There's no way that Palestine, that Hamas could have done this. One of the super chatters asked us on IRL. They asked us, how could a rocket from Hamas be that powerful to destroy an entire, to decimate, to level a hospital? And the first thing I asked was the hospital leveled? I had not seen any photos or reports. The hospital was no longer in existence. And now there's only one bit of evidence you need. Photos emerging from the scene this in the morning. They're much further ahead than us in terms of daylight. Show it was a parking lot fire. The buildings are all intact. Now, this could all be propaganda and manipulation as well. But based on photos I've looked up of the hospital, comparing it with photos and videos posted by numerous individuals, at least for now, and this could be wrong. I'm trying my best here. It does seem that whatever happened, it is not 500 dead. It is not the leveling of a hospital. However, this propaganda pushed out by numerous nations that hate the United States was used to ignite their populations and call for war, blaming Israel. Even Russia says.
Yeah, and a bunch of idiots just decided to just go ahead and run with this narrative that Israel was responsible for what happened when it was pretty obvious that, there's the thing about war, the fog of war, you might want to keep your mouth shut. You might not want to say anything. You might want to, I don't know, maybe just watch and just wait for the reports to come out the next day and then get the truth instead of running with a narrative that one country bombed the other one. That actually turned out not to be the case.
Saying they saw children injured by the blast with their heads removed. Really? That's right. One of the stories from the Daily Mail is that witnesses said that after Israel hit the hospital, there were children who had been decapitated in the blast. You see the game they're playing? You know what, man? I got no answers. This is why you have two solutions. You have two opportunities. Okay, there's two parent trees you can take down. When you're dealing with lying scumbags who want you to kill people, you can either, with the authoritarian iron fist, just crush the region, decimate, and just impose harsh order and tell the children to shut your mouths. Okay, that's not, in my opinion, the best way to go about doing things. You know what? It creates destabilization. For one, it violates human rights, right? We don't want authoritarian lockdowns, bombings, none of that stuff. Everybody's trying to get everybody else to kill everybody. Hold on. That's not going to work in the long run either. It breeds animosity and chaos. There's another opportunity for us to not be involved at all and to step back and say, gee, I wonder what happened. Anyway, did you guys watch the game last night? The United States' involvement in these conflicts it's an impossibility. I just do not see how we navigate manipulations and lies like this. Shout out to all the mainstream media that ran the narrative definitively that Israel did this. And let's break it down. Let's break it down for you. First, we got to start with the threat of chaos here. Americans warned, do not travel to Lebanon as Beirut embassy is set on fire. They say the U.S. has warned Americans not to travel to Lebanon in its entirety. Family members of U.S. government personnel and non-essential embassy staff were allowed to leave Lebanon after the embassy in Beirut was targeted by protesters who started a fire at the complex. Hours after the protests began, the State Department issued a do not travel advisory. This is getting very, very, very serious. The advisory noted that large demonstrations had erupted in the wake of recent violence in Israel and Gaza. Protesters have blocked major roads. You can see this. It warned, this is Lebanese people gathered in front of the U.S. Embassy, Gaza's Al-Ali Baptist Hospital. Take a look at this from The Independent. A definitive statement in the caption that Israel did strike the Al-Ali Baptist Hospital. This is crazy. I can't tell you definitively one way or another. I have gone through all the evidence, and it looks like, with more evidence emerging in daylight hours, hospital's still there. And it was a parking lot fire. Now, maybe that's not true. Maybe I'm being lied to. Maybe these photos and videos are all wrong. Perhaps. But if that's the case, how does The Independent and Getty definitively state that Israel did this? Let me just tell you. This is what evil looks like. Evil. NBC News, AP, the journalists who came at Independent and definitively made a statement without evidence, they are evil. It is either the banality of evil or it is malicious evil. You do not, without conclusive proof, come out and say one way or another, it
Bombed
was.
out parking lot, and then we found out later on that Gaza actually hit themselves, which, by the way, didn't surprise me when the information came out, because with my experience with people, now I'm not saying this to insult everybody in the Middle East, but my experience in warfare and 2 separate deployments in Iraq, I know that these people love to launch rockets that aren't exactly what we call accurate. I've been nailed by a few, sitting there in the trailer in 2004, 2005, and all the mortars that are aimed directly at my location always hit somewhere else, or sometimes they hit our location by accident. Not exactly known for accurate weapons. They've never really and truly updated their weapon system. But what do we get? We get a president right now who also gave $6 billion to Iran, an actual enemy of Israel. And then he goes and gives an additional $100 million while in Tel Aviv, while in Israel, having a conversation with Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, guarantees him money, but then turns right back around and gives another $100 million to the Palestinians, which is very weird because we currently don't have a House Speaker, so I'm kind of wondering how it is that that money will be distributed. Let's watch some of this really quick, and we'll come back on the other side intermittently, and we'll be commenting to each and everything that Mr. Waters says here, because he's actually 100% correct with all his questions.
Released. In other words, it was Wednesday. Embassies under assault. It was the perfect day for a trip to Israel. The president landed, hugged Netanyahu, and then almost fell asleep.
I asked the Secretary of State when he and I were working in the Senate to write something for him, and he said, he wrote a line that I think is appropriate. He said, it's not, we lead, not just, well, I won't go into it, I'll wait later. Taking too much time.
Biden only met with Netanyahu today. The rest of the Arab leaders snubbed him. We give these people billions and they snub us. No respect. But after a double espresso, Biden took the podium and, in fairness, delivered touching remarks about what it means to lose a loved one. He said he stands with Israel now and forever. But then he handed the Palestinians a check for $100 million.
Today, I'm also announcing $100 million in new U.S. funding for humanitarian assistance in both Gaza and the West Bank. This money will support more than 1 million displaced and conflict-affected Palestinians, including emergency needs in Gaza. If Hamas diverts or steals the assistance, they will have demonstrated once again that they have no concern for the welfare of the Palestinian people.
It's blasphemous, in my opinion, if you go to another country, especially a country like Israel, and you tell them that you're going to support them, but then you turn right back around and you say that you're going to give the country that they're fighting $100 million. And, of course, other Arab nations aren't exactly kicking in any money towards those who live in the Gaza Strip either. It sounds to me like it's their problem. As I've said before, the best thing you can simply do is just simply put a carrier fleet in the Mediterranean, maybe another one in the Indian Ocean, to keep Iran on the sidelines. If you do that there, then it's pretty obvious that Israel more than likely would just end the affair. It probably wouldn't even take that long. As a matter of fact, it would be a great, big, giant, nice Hanukkah present for them if they were able to get rid of this issue. But many people, of course, believe this is going to be another forever war. And, of course, at the exact same time, Biden is approving more money to Ukraine, a war that, quite frankly, we should not be getting involved in anymore because Ukraine has already lost
Hamas steals the money. Come on, man. Biden just bought terrorists a fresh arsenal. We're a bunch of suckers. What are the Arabs giving them? Nothing. The most any Arab nation is giving the Palestinians, $4 million. We give them $100 million. We're funding both sides of the war. We give Israel money, we give Iran money, we give the Palestinians money. Hunter's got to be getting a cut. So Biden hugs Bibi, falls asleep, writes a check to Hamas, and then tells Israel, don't turn Gaza into a quagmire like Bush did in Iraq.
After 9/11, we were enraged in the United States. While we sought justice and got justice, we also made mistakes. I know the choices are never clear or easy for the leadership. There's always cost, but it requires being deliberate and an honest assessment about whether the path you're on will achieve those objectives. The vast majority of Palestinians are not Hamas. Hamas does not represent the Palestinian people.
Biden voted for the Iraq war, and now he's telling Israel, don't be stupid like I was. And do your best to kill terrorists, not civilians. Thank you, Joe.
I don't think Joe Biden needs to be lecturing anybody on Iraq, especially given the fact that he voted for the Iraq war. Now, guys, I wanted to wait a second to talk about this because Biden mentioned it earlier in his speech last night about Islamophobia and little boys and whatnot, people looking around screaming maybe Al-Qaeda every time they see somebody who's Arab. I want to go and let you know right now that back in 2001, 2002 timeframe, right after September the 11th, there was this bit of Islamophobia that was going on in the United States, but it was nowhere near as bad as it has been promoted. The truth be told is that in that situation before we went to Iraq, while a lot of people of Arab descent did not like the idea of us going into that nation, I got to say this. They were a little bit more hard-pressed, like they would eventually come out and say, look, we really and truly don't want to be a part of this. But at the same time, though, we are also not terrorists or whatnot. They had to go out of their way to they felt like they had to prove to everybody that was the case. But eventually, the whole little Islamophobia that was going on then was eventually gotten over. It didn't last that long. It pretty much died off very quickly. So bringing it back up just seems to me like this entire thing is politics. And it also feels to me like Biden is trying to play both sides of the aisle here. I mean, it's pretty obvious. You give Israel a bunch of money, but then you turn right back around and you give their enemy some money. Not to mention the fact that he gave their enemy a bunch of money before the entire thing occurred. It makes you wonder if this entire thing was not, in fact, orchestrated. But still, at the exact same time, I am of the belief and I'm of the feeling that if you get attacked, you need to be able to fight back. This situation is a diplomatic disaster for Joe Biden. I mean, it is absolutely stupid exactly how bad this man is at policy. I told people he was going to be this bad. He had the worst record on foreign policy of any sitting member of the United States Senate when he was in the Senate. He's always been very weak. And something else, too, and I want to go ahead and put this out here now before we go any further. Biden is supposed to give the eulogy at Jimmy Carter's funeral. Jimmy Carter's still alive. Joe looks to me like he's probably going to kill over here in the next couple of months. I just figured I'd point that out. I just figure I would throw that out there, and you guys can say what you want to in the comment section. But let's watch a little more.
He should have told them, don't leave the weapons behind so terrorists can't have them like I did in Afghanistan. The president then said our Defense Department confirmed that Hamas's rocket hit the hospital, not Israel's. Yet the president never mentioned radical Islam. He never uttered a single word about fanatical Muslims hell-bent on ethnic cleansing, never touched it, skipped right over the root causes. Also, never mentioned Iran. Biden's trying to soft pedal Iranian involvement because his administration has been letting Iran get away with murder for years. To his credit, President Trump had demolished ISIS, assassinated Soleimani, and pulled out of the nuke deal and slapped crippling sanctions on that country's energy sector. He had great relationships with the leaders of Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, and Turkey, all the major Arab players. And Israel was cutting deals with these Arabs. And now the deals are on hold because of Iranian mischief. And Biden isn't going to be able to put this back together. He's just not.
I showed you at the very beginning of this video Trump's response to this versus Biden's response to this for a reason. So that way you can see that while Trump is also a man in his 70s, he's definitely more spry and more fit. Definitely more fit to deal with this. We talked about this in a previous video, that Trump went out of his way to completely defund the entire ordeal, completely defund all of Israel's enemies. Yet Biden, of course, has re-enriched him to go out there and fight. By the way, it come to find out that Hamas has been planning this for 2 years. They had been planning this strike on Israel for over 2 years because they knew when Biden was going to come in, he was going to be extremely weak, extremely feckless, and was going to be extremely stupid. They already knew this. And the reason why they knew this is because they knew that they were probably dealing with the other guy who's controlling that administration. We all know who. Can't say his name, though. But here's what I find very interesting about this entire situation. See, Vice News decided to have an interview with somebody the other day. Pay very close attention to this.
ذكرى القتل المجرم العنصري لجورج فلويد. جورج فلويد قتل في مثل هذه الأيام نتيجة منهجية عنصرية موجودة لدى أشخاص. اليوم هذه العنصرية التي قتل بها جورج فلويد يمارسها الاحتلال ضدنا وضد أهلنا. أنا أغتنم هذا.
George Floyd. Let's use George Floyd. Racism in America is bad. You treat black people like crap. Even though we have more black millionaires than anybody else in the world, and Fentanyl Floyd, quite frankly, is responsible for his own. Just figured I'd say that. I think I called this a long time ago. You see, you guys remember when Anthony Blinken went overseas to China, and of course the Chinese leadership decided to all of a sudden just hit us with this?
China is firmly opposed to U.S. interference in China's internal affairs. We have expressed our staunch opposition to such interference, and we will take firm actions in response. On human rights, we hope that the United States will do better on human rights. China has made steady progress in human rights, and the fact is that there are many problems within the United States regarding human rights, which is admitted by the U.S. itself as well. The United States has also said that countries can't rely on force in today's world to resolve the challenges we face. And it is a failure to use various means to topple the so-called authoritarian states. And the challenges facing the United States in human rights are deep-seated. They did not just emerge over the past 4 years, such as Black Lives Matter. It did not come up only recently. So we do hope that for our...
Yeah, that's right. They decided to use America's then racist narrative against us. That's actually what they're doing here. We look like complete total idiots here on the world stage. And while Biden was talking about maybe the possibility of saying something like, oh, we don't want Russia, I don't want troops on the ground in Russia, when we all know that they actually do, I want to remind you something right now. The U.S. military versus the Russian military, even in its current state, would be able to beat the literal hell out of Russia, but not in Russia. Napoleon tried this. Look what happened to him. The Tatar invasion lasted for hundreds of years, but eventually they died off. Adolf Hitler. Operation Barbarossa. It is not a good idea to launch an invasion or a fight into Russia. You put 2,000 Marines out there on the ocean so that way they can sit there for humanitarian aid, but in reality, Joe Biden and the military-industrial complex is just waiting for those men to get picked off. Oh, what about those troops that Joe had put in Poland last year at the start of the Russian incursion into Ukraine? It's pretty obvious that he put a small amount of men so that way Vladimir Putin would be tempted to hit them. But yet Vladimir Putin the other day told everybody in the Middle East to kind of calm down, which makes me think that maybe Iran, Syria, and other nations aren't going to get involved in this because Vladimir Putin knows that Joe Biden is just simply poking the bear in the hopes that maybe Putin will do something that, quite frankly, will then justify us invading Russia or hitting Russia, which, of course, is obviously a horrible idea because invading Russia, it never works. I just figure I would throw that out there. And then you factor in that the United States military right now is like 70% obese. You've got an entire generation of people that don't want to join the military, that are refusing to join. Of course, Gen Z would be the first ones to be plucked in case there was a draft, and most of these people are left wing, or that's what they tell us. We'll discuss that much, much more in tomorrow's video because I caught the Timcast IRL special and they were talking about how it is that all these little young leftists need to go. I hate to tell you this, but it won't be the leftists that go. It'll be the working class kids that go. Sad thing about war. The situation that we're looking at, though, in my opinion, makes me think that we really and truly have poked the bear a little bit too much, and now we are looking at the possibility of World War III. And unlike the previous administration, which was like a bull in a china shop that was completely unpredictable, all of our enemies can see this moron from a mile away, and they know exactly what he's going to do. You've got elections that are going to be taking place in Taiwan next year. I'm pretty sure if the outcome does not go the way the Chinese want, they're probably going to want to invade. Are we going to be able to support three functions? Are we going to be able to support three separate fronts? It's also possible that when the Ukraine affair ends, if it does end, or if it ends in an area, if it ends in a situation that becomes suddenly very, very favorable to Russia, that they don't suddenly promote, I don't know, maybe 300 or 400,000 additional men, and they don't suddenly find themselves getting involved in that Armenian crisis that's going on between Armenia and Azerbaijan. You've also got the Belt and Road Initiative that's coming out of China, but of course you've got nations like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, they are balking at that, saying we don't want nothing to do with that. It looks to me like you've got a lot of alliances. By the time 2025 gets here, we could be looking at 5 separate fronts. And you got to ask yourself a question, how the hell did we get into this? We got into this due to very, very weak, stupid leadership, very, very weak, feckless leadership. Anybody who knew that Joe Biden, if after he got into office, if you thought for 1 second he was not going to be like Obama or worse, you were absolutely wrong. You should probably consider just staying out of politics altogether, because you're the ones who helped put us into this situation. And that right there is all I'm going to say about this topic. With that right there being said, guys, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe, share the video, sound off in the comment section, and I will see you guys later.